agenda, I got.
I guess not.
It's good to know people are actually reading the agendas.
No one heard from Jen that she's not coming, right?
She's here. She's loading right now.
Okay, great. Hi, Jen. Okay, I think that Bo's probably still there. I think maybe he was having trouble with the picture, but I'm going to do a roll call and then call the meeting to order. Or I'll call the meeting to order and then have the roll call. Okay, Mr. Beaupre.
Yes.
Okay, I'm calling on you first in case you lose your internet because it looks like you're going back and
No, I
forth.
just had to go shut off the air condition, the air dehumidifier because
Oh.
it turns on every time we start.
Okay. All right, Miss Valeska.
Here.
All right, Mr. Just going by whoever I see, Mr. Poria.
Here.
Mr. Dyer,
Here,
Miss Ofant,
Here,
and Mr. Corson. Mr. Corson, I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
I'm here.
Oh, good. All right. So we've called the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda are public comments for items not on the agenda. I see we have a few participants who have just joined us. A couple of attendees. Is there anyone who has something that they would like to ask us about or make a comment? All right, seeing none. Feel free to weigh in later on if you are so moved. So now it's time for the town administrator's report.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I don't have too much to cover on here. Like my report said, I haven't heard any updates on the Stone Wharf engineering study. I wrote in my thing that I had nothing new to report on the Indian Point study, but I did hear Barney did communicate with Phyllis Bruner today and expressed that he's going to attend a meeting with them on November. I think it's sometime late next week, either the 12th or maybe it's the week following. I can't remember with all the holidays and everything. The days don't make a lot of sense, but he's going to attend a meeting with them, and he thought that he'd have the report close to done, if not done by the time that meeting happened. That is a meeting for their portion of the project down there. It's not the town section, so it's not necessarily a public meeting. It's something between, that's part of his contract, the portion of the contract that's between him and the Indian Island Corporation. We had an election yesterday. We confirmed with Steve that the rec center is available for the special town meeting on December 4th. The road crew patched all of the trenches with cold patch, and over the last couple of days, they've been going out and grading some of the smaller dirt roads, basically trying to clean up from the heavy rains that we had, and just to get them ready so they'll be in decent shape for the winter season. And then I just wanted to remind people that the town office will be closed next Thursday, November 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. Does anybody have any questions? It's not that much to go over there.
just one comment and then Bo and then Mark. So once we know that we've got that final report from Barney, we'll schedule a meeting for him to come and make a public presentation. Is that right? Is that what the plan?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
He
great.
thought that he'd have it ready for the Indian Island Corporation meeting. But he wasn't guaranteeing anything to Phyllis at that point. So that's why I haven't.
Right. So hopefully at the next, in 2 weeks, maybe we'll be able to add that to the agenda.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, Bo?
Just wondering where we're at with the new plow truck.
So I sent off an email late this afternoon to the vendor to see if they have an ETA on the equipment for it, basically. So the truck has been moved from Pape Chevrolet. It's up at HP Fairfield in Skowhegan. And they expected they would receive the dump body and the plow and all that no sooner than November. So I just sent that off today to ask if they had received anything from the manufacturer about when that might arrive. So I don't have an answer for you yet, but I'll hopefully have it here soon. I can send you all an email if I get an ETA from him.
Thanks for checking in.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Donna. Justin, with respect to the cold patch, which I thank you and the crew for doing with the culvert repair areas, will you guys keep an eye on them in case they need more cold patch, in case they continue to settle as we go forward?
Yes, I think that's a wise course of action. Certainly, I talked to the crew a little bit today. They were picking up after the election, but I'm gonna sit down and also talk with Chuck and Doug, which I haven't done yet, to talk about that dip area that I met with you and Donna about outside of the CTC. So they're not ignoring you. I haven't asked them to do that work yet. So once I'm gonna hopefully meet with them over there tomorrow, and we'll figure out whether we can drill a hole to let the water out and then fill that in with cold patch too, just so that everybody else is aware on the board.
Sounds good. A couple more points on South Road, if I may. Right in front of Julie Dowdy's house, she has a basement cellar drain, which has caused a divot in the road, which is right after one of our culvert repairs. I wondered if the crew might consider shimming that for us if they're out with cold patch.
We just got a new, oh, all right. Donna Bo would like to speak.
Oh. Bo?
I think there's some damage to that pipe going across the road. So I think she needs to get a permission from us to do a road crossing to fix that. So I think it's the pipe itself is either crushing or something's going on. So
Bo,
I
can
do
you,
agree, but I don't know.
Bo, can you clarify for me? I thought that what did we put into our catch basin? I thought we put her pipe into our catch basin. Or am I incorrect?
The pipe that's going in there is for underneath the store.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry.
So
That makes.
the pipe that Mark's talking about is the one that's draining her house.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
And that may be the same era as the one that Kendra McKinnon has that goes under, or maybe even older than that. I mean, Kendra's went in there, I don't know when, but 100 years ago. I mean, that one of Julie's might be that old too. Mark?
Yeah, and I won't waste much more time, but thank you. A couple of more points. If we're going to do any exploratory looking at those rocks in front of Ken Hamilton's, I'm just wondering what we're thinking on there for timing. So it looks like the south, here's my bigger point. It appears to me that stretch of South Road from Roy Hill to the inn may still not be ready for any kind of an overlay next spring/summer. Would that be accurate as far as you're concerned, Justin and Bo?
Right now, I would say that's the case. I don't know how much more time we have, but I was hoping that the crew would have been out there trying to dig out those rocks by now. I know they've been doing other things, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe Bo has an opinion on that. I wouldn't necessarily be afraid at this. We haven't gotten, much frost or anything yet, but it would be nice to have them go dig those rocks, at least see if we can dig those rocks out.
Bo?
Yeah, I don't see why they can't dig the rocks out. We're waiting for the easement for Julie's. And also there's another section towards the Slow Bell area that's also flooding into the road. I don't know if you've got noticed it after this last storm. That area is particularly hard because it's ledge, so it's kind of hard to manipulate that stuff. So it's either we postpone the South Road section till the following year, and then do all the other roads as far as chip seal. So that way we have plenty of time for settling and for, if we need to do some work on it.
Any other
Thank you.
questions about the roads? Just for clarification, so I raised the concern with Justin about when you get off the boat and you're coming onto the wharf where the fill has gone out between the rocks and it's settled there. Last winter, it was pretty steep when you were coming off from there. It was slippery and people were having a hard time. It's even worse now. And so what my suggestion was, not being a road person, was that if they could fill in with some kind of coal patch, anything would be better than nothing. So that to try to break that grade so that people aren't going to slip when they're coming down off there when there's ice and snow. So that's kind of what he was talking about. And then we know that water piles up there. And so that's what he was talking about with the drilling. You were mentioned about the dirt roads. My husband asked me to communicate his thanks to the town at what a great job they did today on Fenderson Road. If anybody had been down there after the rains, where it came down over the tar by Joan Robinson's, it had created a gully in the middle of the road in numerous spots. And so it was probably 6 inches at least, maybe 8 inches deep, a cut in it. And they went back and forth. I don't know. He said 20 times that Chuck went back and forth. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but it looks really good. And he did a really good job. So if you can pass that on to Chuck, Doug would be appreciate. He thanked him at the time, but he really took a lot of time with it. Anything else to ask the town administrator? Anyone in the audience? Any attendees? Well, I think this might be a good time, Justin, for us to make a public announcement about your future plans. Would you like to take the lead on that?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. So last week I sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen tendering my resignation as of the end of this year. So I think it's December 30th. I think that's the last Friday of the year. Basically, I was approached or I was offered a position in a municipality that's 5 minutes from my kids' school up here. So I accepted a job to be the town manager of the town of Monmouth. I wasn't really looking for a new position. I plan to stay through at least the end of my contract, but it's just one of those things that came up. And I just want to say publicly, as I wrote in my letter, that I really appreciate all the support that I've received from the Board of Selectmen, the staff, and various residents that I've had the opportunity to work with over the past year.
And we want to thank you, Justin, for your professionalism and for all of that you have done for us. And it's kind of bittersweet. We wish you well. And Justin has said that he will help us in the transition, and we'll be talking more about that later. The next thing on the agenda, I put in comments from the chair. And as you know, I spend a lot of time at the museum. And so I was going through a file the other day and I found something that really resonated with me and made me start kind of go back and start thinking about where we are as a town and how we got to be a town. And I just want to share it with you. And if you will please, take this from whence it comes from, really a good place. And this is Chris Rich's, actually his speech when he was running for the first Board of Selectmen when we had our first town meeting at the rec center. And it's from the Island Times, July 2007. I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves where we are and what our roots are. So I'll just start with this. Chris approached the microphone, shared a few words he said he had jotted down at breakfast just this morning, and in doing so, set the tone for Shebig's first election. And this is to quote Chris. In my mind, the whole reason for seceding was to allow Islanders to decide the future of Shebig. Obviously, children are the future of any place. Thus, the school must be protected and nurtured. It's my hope that our children will feel a sense of place in this place, both in its history and the varied interests and abilities of today's inhabitants. This sense of pride in and love for the island will assure its future. Many say that Shebig has no future as a year-round community. They say that economics rule everything and it will become an exclusive resort. But love and pride are not ruled by economics. This island is in our blood, a very part of us, and we of it. We must maintain a resolute determination to succeed. Will it be easy? Definitely not. Perfection is not one of man's attributes. I feel that we should maintain the core of what is important to us. Needs must be met before wants. On the other hand, if opportunities arise that might lead to a long-term betterment of the community, they should definitely be examined. I don't feel we need blemish-free roads or grandiose town halls or anything frivolous and just for show. I feel small-scale businesses should be encouraged rather than discouraged. Likewise, ease of commuting should be maintained. People don't live here because it's more convenient or less costly. They live here for two reasons. They are born into it and this life is part of them, or they are seeking something different in this increasingly homogenized world of cookie-cutter suburbs and strip malls. May we always preserve this difference, this sense of place and belonging so rare in today's world. May we also remember those who were against secession because they were doing what their hearts told them to do, just as we favored secession were doing. We are all valued residents of Shebig Island. May God bless Shebig. Thank you. And now we'll move on to our regular business. So 21-122, to set goals for the Shebig Island and Yarmouth Joint Standing Committee. And so the purpose for putting this on was it's something we've been talking, it's been on the back burner and we just had really heavy agendas. And we really want to get this committee some discussion going. And so I thought it was really important that we talk about this as a group because we know that Mark and Jen are our representatives, but they are representing what the Board of Selectmen and not just themselves. So this is the opportunity for input from the board for the Joint Standing Committee. Is there anyone who would like to start the discussion? Bo.
Well, I know there's a lot of discussion with CTC and quite a lot of back and forth with the 80-foot ramp or ADA ramp, I should say, not 80-foot, whatever it is. And then potentially growing, not growing, but making the float bigger or doubling the floats or something like that. You know, as we can walk down to the Stone Pier right now and count numerous boats. And thank goodness we don't all go to the town to town at the same time because nobody would be able to park there. There's no way we can fly, we can tie 6 floats or 5 floats to one. I mean, I think that'd be something to look into.
Thank you. I think that those two kind of go hand in hand. In order to do the 80-foot ramp, you have to make a bigger float. So, you know, that could benefit both of those goals. Anyone else have a goal for the committee? Jay?
There we go. I guess my goal for the committee would be to have open conversations with the good folks in Yarmouth, which doesn't seem to have been. There always seems to be an agenda, and the agenda is usually something that nobody really wants to agree on. And I think that just getting a conversation started, building a little goodwill both sides, so that when, you know, instead of having CTC as the focus of and the underlying elephant in the room, I think that the town needs to sort of develop a talking relationship with Yarmouth, with the focus being the wharf and so forth. And that may be more of a strategy than a goal, but you know, I think that when I served on that committee, when we actually had a meeting once, you know, it was very productive in a lot of ways because we actually got to talk to people and they got to talk to us. And I think that was useful. Unfortunately, nothing ever came of it, but I think that's a place where we really need to start. I mean, these people are not our enemies. They're, you know, they should be partners in that wharf area on their side. And, you know, our kids go to school there. They need to get back and forth. We need to get back and forth. I mean, this should not be a war zone. This should be a conversation of mutual interest.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, Jay. When I was on that committee, that was basically what we were doing, trying to build that, what you're talking about. One of the challenges that I've found over the years is the fact that we just start to develop a relationship with the people, and that either the people on our committee change or the people on their committee change. And because of, you know, somebody gets on there and they're all ready to get off. And so it's almost like every time we meet, we have to start over again because it's not the same people sitting at the table. And so, you know, hopefully we can get more meetings closer together. We had hoped that last summer that we would get people together, and because of COVID and everything else, it just didn't happen. Jen?
Since I've never participated in one of these meetings, but I had a lot. We would once a year get together with the school committee of Yarmouth, the school board of Yarmouth, and we would either go over there, where we would invite them, you know, every other year they would come here and we'd give them a tour. We did breakfasts a lot, and had a really great meeting with the Yarmouth School Board. Just, it was always really productive and really positive, and I didn't know, these meetings take place in Yarmouth? Do they ever come over here? How does that work? And I would think that if it's new people, that a lot of Yarmouth residents have not been to Shebig and they don't understand the connection. And I think that's a really positive thing to bring them over and show them how this all works and introduce them to people and show, you know, what we have for a town.
Yeah, we have done that in the past, and I think it's a really good idea. And we had actually invited them to have the next meeting on Shebig. And then we had hoped to do it early in the fall, and then COVID started to kick up again. And that was our goal in the spring, is to get them down here. And I think you're right. And in the past, when we were part of Cumberland, we did do that. And we brought people from Yarmouth down here and gave them bus tours. And we had actually a Cousins Island Day here, where we invited anybody who wanted to come and had a picnic. And, I mean, I think that that's a really great idea, is to be able to do that, because as you get to know people on an individual basis, they start to understand what you're actually talking about. So yeah, I think that's, it's the same thing, a positive attitude. Mark, you had your hand up. Oh, Jen, are you finished? Did you have something else? Okay, thanks.
I was just gonna ask, I understand that or a small COVID outbreak may have interrupted our ability to get together with them. When was the last time that we requested some sort of a meeting with Yarmouth, do we think?
Well, we had a meeting with them. Was it on Zoom that we did? Did you and I do one in Zoom last spring? I think we did one since Justin's been there.
Yes, yeah, we went to one. It was, I don't know, spring, early summer, I think.
Yeah, but it was on Zoom, and nobody could get together. And then we hoped that by the end of the summer we would, and then all of a sudden in August things started to deteriorate.
Yeah, so that's kind of part of my point of my question. Do we think Yarmouth is meeting on Zoom like we are?
I haven't checked with them lately. I don't know for sure.
The last I knew, they were still doing Zoom, but I'm not sure. Let me look while you're talking. I might be able to figure it out by looking at their website.
Yeah, that's okay. Maybe we should just put out a little feeler to Nat Tupper and see what his feeling is about any possibility of getting together, even if it is by Zoom, and think about when that could be and what we would talk about.
When we met with them the last time, we asked them how they would feel if we asked Bonnie Baker to give us an estimate on what a design would cost for the 80-foot ramps, and they were fine about that. There was one selectman who wanted to think about it, and then he got back to us and said, yeah, that's fine. Now, what was interesting was it wasn't just the two they didn't have just two representatives. It must have been, Mark, what do you think? Or Justin, 5 at least that showed up out of 7, 4 or 5 anyway. There was more than 2.
I think it was less than a majority. I think it might have been 3.
Oh, maybe it was 3. Because
Yeah.
I think somebody was leaving and somebody was, I was thinking it was 4, but I don't know.
I can't remember. I think you're right. Somebody was leaving and somebody was coming on, I think.
Yeah, and so then maybe that's how they got 4.
Yeah, that might have been it. They weren't
Yeah.
actually in office yet.
And they didn't even realize that what they were doing. But anyway, so they had more, and they said they hoped we didn't mind, and we didn't care how many people they had come. So, maybe both boards should meet. I don't know. Maybe at some point you guys have a meeting, and maybe that would be the next step, is to have both boards meet. And if we could meet in person, that would be, depending on how things are going with COVID.
It looks like they're meeting both in person and hybrid. So they have like kind of a mix, it looks like, from what I can
Okay.
tell.
Because they keep having little spurts, so maybe they have to keep coming and going. Maybe depends on whether there's an outbreak. Mark,
It kind of seems like we're waiting for some prices and designs in more than one area from Barney and/or people that he's working with. So it almost sounds to me like we're waiting for some sort of a cost estimate for a design for a possible consideration of a reconfiguration of that Cousins Island Wharf. So, in my opinion, we might want to not push him for that, because what else are we going to talk with Yarmouth about besides, how it's going down over the, driving down to the turnaround? How's it going with people being respectful? How's it working with, the parking lot, the barging, so on and so forth? See my point?
Yep. Justin,
The 80-foot ramp proposal is not something that we have asked him to develop yet. What he did was when we originally talked about it, we talked about submitting for a SHIP grant. And I don't know what happened with that. We submitted the paperwork and the state didn't get it. I don't know what happened. So the application deadline was like May of last year. So it's really probably a discussion during the budget process about whether you want to move forward that or whether you want to wait for the next SHIP grant opportunity. It seems pretty clear that a SHIP grant would cover the entire cost of this kind of a project, including the design and everything. But if you wanted to get the cost estimates and some of the preliminary work done first to know how much it was going to cost, either the board would want to move forward with funding that from the barge and float reserve account, which would be an appropriate use of that money, or you'd want to put it into your next budget process about putting money aside for that particular project.
well, if we need to know to write a grant, we need to know what we're asking for a grant. So,
Right.
and that's what, the first thing we wanted to know from him is how much would it cost us to get a plan? So we would
Right.
know what it cost. So, I mean, it's really two steps. Jay?
I think we really need to focus on this side and in terms of getting the stone wharf work done and looked at, and what we want to do, if we want to do any ramp extensions. But I think we need to do the plan on this side first, rather than spending a lot of time and energy and potentially money about an 80-foot ramp on that side.
I guess I see them as two separate projects. I see the stone wharf as one place, and I see the Cousins Island as another whole part of it's really part of our infrastructure. And the ramp is short over there. People are falling. And to me, they're really two different questions. The question is, do we ever want to change that ramp over there, or don't we? I mean, to me, that's simple. The stone wharf is another question. What do we want to do with the stone wharf? But it doesn't impact the boat. It doesn't impact anything if we put an 80-foot ramp in one place and then later on put it one in another place. Unless, if we could get a grant for it, I guess that's where I'm coming from. But let's try to wrap this up. So where we go? Oh, Bo?
Sorry, just a little thing since we're talking about the stone pier. Where are we at with the stability report? Have you heard from them?
It's on my list to follow up. I know that they're doing work because we're getting invoices for it. And it did slow down a bit last month, as in the invoices weren't very much. So meaning they weren't putting a lot of hours into it. But it is on my list to try to find out. And I will do that right now. I'll write it down to make sure that I have an answer for you for your next meeting.
Thank you.
So the next steps as far as Cousins Island, do you think that just to at least get the relationships, as Jen said, and the conversation going, do we want Justin to get in touch with Nap Tupper and try to set something up? I'm asking Mark and Jen because they're the people who are going to be doing this. Mark.
It's fine. It's always fine, in my opinion, to contact the town of Yarmouth and specifically Nat Tupper to see how things are going, if he thinks there's a reason to meet. If we would have a list of subjects that were any different than last time or not, and if we should be meeting or whether we should do a little more work on this side as far as planning or not planning for a possible design proposal for Cousins Island Wharf, and see what he says.
What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I agree that you reach out to Nat and see where, what he thinks, but also, I think it's important to just, show that we're interested and we want to meet and that we just want to keep in touch that way. So that's good. And maybe he has an auditor that can help us out.
That's good. Yeah, everybody's looking for auditors. Okay, anybody else have anything on this subject before we go to the next item, which is to set goals for the Board of Selectmen meetings with town committees? We had talked about touching base with town committees kind of on a regular basis. And right now, if we do something once a year, we're better off than what we're doing right now. So I guess what I was thinking is that these would be generic goals, not specific to each committee. I mean, one could be, can you update us on what you've been doing? I mean, that would be just kind of general. But would there be, what else? I mean, I guess what would we what would be our goal? And that's the first thing. Oh,
So the way I'm looking at this is if they have stuff to either that'll affect our budget or will need to have something to at least do it twice a year with them. I would say twice a year with all of them.
okay. And so I think that so one would be to get an update on what's happening. 2, are there any budget considerations? 3, any town meeting issues? Anybody else have some other things that they would like to, any goals for when we meet with committees? Jen?
I might just simplify it and ask, what's on their agendas and what, for the year, what are they working on? I think they're going to give us all that information within that, I would hope.
Yeah, well, that would be the same thing as an update in what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that what Bo's saying, just specifically, if we send an invitation to say, if you have any budget items, that would be something, and, or any town meeting items. It's just a reminder, I think, as opposed to, if they don't have anything, there's nothing to discuss. Justin?
Chris and I talked a little bit about this. I think a starting place may be that we send out something to all of the members of these committees. Some of them don't have regular business. So if I'm looking at like the website right now, the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, they don't meet unless there's something to do. Another one is like the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, and the Road Plan Committee. They haven't met in some time, and some of these people were concerned that they don't even know. Not that they don't know, but they haven't met in some time, so I don't know what they would really report to you. And I think that we don't even have a sense, maybe Chris can correct me, we don't have a sense that whether these people even know that they're still on these committees. So I think that some of the the smaller or more specific committees, maybe we should send out a letter and make sure that they're still interested in serving and that they understand that they're on the committee, and maybe we should start there before we ask them to show up. But that's kind of a question for all of you folks. Obviously, the planning board meets regularly and some of the other ones do, but some of them do not.
Yeah, and so maybe that's one of the things that it might be a good idea with those committees. If we haven't appointed anybody, then, for example, solid waste, I don't remember appointing anybody to that for years. So I'm not sure there's anybody on that committee. But that's something that we really need to have, especially if we're going to be doing a review of the transfer station. And so maybe this is a way for us to identify too, which areas. I know the road plan committee is a problem because they can't get enough people to be on it. And when about Board of Adjustment and Appeals, one of the things I was thinking about that, and I know that this is, they made recommendations when we were in part of Cumberland, because they kept seeing some of the same kinds of issues over and over again. And one of them was Shebig had a lot of small lots that had been built, houses that had been built back in the 1800s, for example, up around the East End. And everybody that wanted to do anything on their house, because they were all built like in a village, they weren't 55 feet from the road. So they had to, almost all of their meetings were happening on people from Shebig who were coming and asking for variances, which were hardships, and they were willing to give. So they actually came up with a suggestion, which was they grandfathered all the lots before that were created before, I think 1975 or whatever, whenever they changed the rules anyway. And that changed the whole landscape of what they were having to do. And so it may be to ask that board, for example, if they met with us, do you have, have you seen any trends? Are things that you think that we may be thinking about that we should be thinking about as far as zoning goes? Things that maybe are unreasonable, reasonable. Have you got any thoughts? I mean, so that's a way that in that conversation, something like that might come up. I'm using it as an example. Bo?
Yeah, I think it's a good start with the letter, see if they're still interested in staying in the committee. And then if they have any questions or anything that they want to bring up to the town or to the select board. And I think we should wait till we hear back from at least those people that are in the committees and then go from there.
But I think they're only talking about just a small committee, a couple of committees, not all the committees. For example, if we
I think why not send it to everybody, because there might be somebody on the Board of Appeals or somebody on the one of the committees that just doesn't want to speak up or hasn't said anything, or it hasn't come up. They haven't had a meeting yet, so it might.
So what would this letter say?
Oh.
I guess my question is, what would this letter say?
I'm not a letter writer.
I would
You still want to be part of this committee? If so, yes. If not, no. And do you have anything that you'd want to bring up to the town on such committee that you have that you that's fell through, or any thoughts? There you go.
I don't know. I guess I don't look at it the same way. Jay?
Why don't we simply, let's make this easy. Why don't we start with getting in touch with each committee chair and saying, do you have items that you need to bring before the town board in terms of the budget, in terms of, a series of things? And who's on your committee that would continue to serve? That's letter one. Let's see what the response is.
I guess I think this is two different issues. One is do we have people on committees who don't know? I think that's done in the spring when we're getting ready to appoint committees. I mean, so I think that's already been done for the year. This is more of, okay, these committees are meeting, and if they're not meeting, then why, they can tell us they're not meeting. But it's more to say, okay, what are you guys doing and what are you thinking about? And that would be, and ask them to come to a meeting. Mark, then Jen.
I would suggest Justin talked about it with his office staff or part of his office staff. And I would suggest that he follow up by just contacting each chairman, if there is one. I'm not sure there is a chairman of some of these, maybe the Coastal Waters Committee, maybe the Road Plan Committee. I don't know about the Shellfish Committee. I'm not sure that those three committees have chairpersons anymore, but I could be wrong. And give us a status report of how the committees are staffed or not, and what they've been doing, and then come back to us, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so that's basically, we don't want to meet with the committees. That's basically what we're saying. Right? Am I right? Am I correct? That's where everybody's coming from? Okay, so we're putting it back on the staff to find out if they have anything they want to do. To me, I thought it was a way to help people become engaged and help people know that we care about what they're doing. But Jen, you had your hand up.
I think it just needs to be simple and, just ask the committee for an update, and, just can be just written, and we'll go from there. If there's concerning items that involve budget, then we follow up further. But it's just kind of, we're just wanting a check-in to see, what they're up to. So that kind of tells them that, we're appreciative and we want to know what they're doing.
Okay, so basically we're saying we don't want to meet with them. We're going to have the staff contact them.
I don't think we need to meet with them unless there's, something important going on that we would probably already know about, I would hope.
Okay. Then that's a dead issue, but I can say that I don't have a clue what most of these are doing. So, all right, let's move on then to approve the minutes of
Communication.
no, communication, sorry. So communication, one, we had to provide an update regarding the first Town Island Institute housing discussion. So that's going to take place on November 10th on the town Zoom at 7 p.m. And this, there'll be a note so they can put it on the town website and Beverly's website. It's going to be facilitated by one of their facilitators, Bria White. And basically the questions are going to be, and everyone in the community is welcome, and it's a grassroots of how do housing issues on Shebig impact you, and how do they impact your community? And so they figured out a format that they will do, and I hope you can all attend. And I hope that you spread the word, because it's important that we have a lot of people come to the table. The second meeting will be the second Wednesday in December, and that will have representatives from various islands that have done different projects about housing, so they can tell what worked and what didn't in their communities. And then in January, on the second Wednesday, there will be, what's next, and to talk about solutions. So next Wednesday's meeting is not to talk about solutions, it's to talk about identifying the issues. So it's really important that people don't come with a solution to that meeting, because that's not what it's going to be about. It's going to be about, how people feel about the different issues having to do with housing. Yes, Justin.
Just while we're talking about, it's a little off topic, but not much. While we're talking about Island Institute, I just was told today that the new executive director is planning on making his visit to the island on November 19th. We expect him to come on the Casco Baby around from like 10 to 2. So if anybody would like to go on his tour of the island, because he's never been out here before, you're welcome to attend. I just wanted to say that while I thought of it.
Thank you. Okay, anybody have any questions about the Island Institute? It will be, like I said, it's on the town Zoom. The second communication that I actually had about a month ago, and I kept forgetting to mention it. I had a call from Steve Moriarty, and you may all know this, but with the redistricting in the state, they've changed, and we are no longer the House of Representatives sharing with Yarmouth. We're back with Cumberland and Long Island. They've moved Sheboygan, Long Island to Cumberland, and because Yarmouth had, they want to break up Yarmouth. They had too many people, and so we will be represented by that district. Steve Moriarty told me that he will be running again. That will be in 2022. We still have Art Bell until the November 2022. But then we will have whoever is elected in Cumberland. And as I said, Steve Moriarty said that he will be running again for that seat. And anyone else have any communication? Okay. Seeing Bo.
Sorry, we got a communication from David Hill.
We're going to talk about that in executive session.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else for communication? I'm going to go back to the people, the attendees, and see if there's an attendee who has anything that they would like to add. Okay, I don't see any hands up. So the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of October 20th, 2021.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, we'll call for a vote. Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mr. Beaupre,
Yes.
Ms. Belisca,
Yes.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes,
and Ms. Damon is yes. All right, unanimous. Items to be placed on a future agenda. Anyone have anything that they feel needs to be added at this point? You can contact me anytime and contact the town office. Jen,
Is it possible that we get an update from the CFO? CEO?
from the CEO.
Yeah.
Sure. What would be the update? You mean on some of the outstanding issues or on what? Anything specific?
No, just the things that we had discussed with him about following up with.
Yeah, we can ask him to come, but I don't know how, some of these things, I don't know that could be legal implications. Justin's got his hand up.
If you would like an update, that really should be requested through me. He reports to me. So those type of inquiries really should be driven through me, and then I can ask him to come if I think that it's necessary. But if you just let me know that you would like to know on specific projects, I can certainly respond to that and get you the answer that you're looking for.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? All right, seeing none. Do we have a motion to go into executive session regarding personnel and real estate?
like to move, we go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A and MRSA 4056C.
Second,
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we will go into executive session. We want to thank everybody who attended the meeting tonight. Unfortunately, we have to ask you to leave. We're going to be voting on going into executive session, but as soon as that happens, please leave. Thank you. All right, Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
yes.
Ms. Beleska,
Yes.
Mr. Beaupre,
Yes.
and Ms. Damon is yes. It's unanimous to go into executive session.
Please just give me a second to shut down the live feed before you
Yeah.
start speaking. Thank you. Just a minute.